Samantha had always been the kind of girl who'd played by the rules. Her life was simple and predictable, filled with school, family dinners, and the occasional weekend getaway with her best friends. At 22, she had never even considered anything beyond innocent dates and school crushes. She had dreamed of a life full of love, but not the kind that brought complications or heartbreak. Everything changed that one fateful night. It started with an unexpected invitation. She had met Ethan Collins, a wealthy and charismatic billionaire, at a party a few weeks before. At first, she thought nothing of it, a brief conversation, a few laughs. He was charming, but too out of her league for her to even entertain the idea of something serious. But Ethan, unlike most of the other wealthy men she knew, had been different. He wasn't flashy. He didn't act like he owned the world, though he did. A few weeks later, Ethan invited her to dinner. Just a casual thing, he assured her. She hesitated, but the allure of a rare experience nudged her forward. Who could say no to dinner in a five-star restaurant, especially when it was with someone as intriguing as Ethan? The night was perfect. The food was exquisite, the conversation easy and free-flowing, and there was something magnetic about him. Samantha found herself drawn in. They talked about everything: dreams, aspirations, and even fears. Ethan made her feel seen, something she wasn't used to from people who often saw her as just another ordinary girl. It wasn't long before they were walking through the quiet streets of the city, the night air warm and comforting. As they stood at the edge of a small park, something shifted between them. Ethan, his usual confident demeanor now softer, leaned in and kissed her. It was a kiss she hadn't expected but couldn't deny. It was tender yet electric, as though it was meant to happen. One kiss led to another. Soon, they were back at Ethan's luxurious penthouse, caught up in a whirlwind neither of them could control. The night unfolded in a haze, too fast and too intense to comprehend. Samantha didn't realize it at the time, but that was the night everything in her life would change. She woke up the next morning with an overwhelming sense of regret. It wasn't the usual morning after guilt that came from doing something out of character. It was something deeper. The way Ethan had looked at her the night before, the way they'd shared something so intimate, left her feeling exposed. But there was something else too. A sense of confusion lingered, like something wasn't quite right. Samantha hadn't heard from him in the days that followed. Her phone stayed quiet, save for the usual texts from friends and family. The silence from Ethan was deafening. It was like that night had meant nothing to him. Weeks passed, and Samantha tried to push the memory away, but there was an increasing discomfort in her body. At first, she thought it was just stress from school or maybe the flu. But when her period was late, the panic set in. She went to the doctor, feeling both nervous and embarrassed. The diagnosis hit her like a freight train. She was pregnant, and there was only one person who could have been the father: Ethan Collins. Samantha's mind spun. The idea of having a child at this point in her life felt impossible. She was a virgin before that night. She had never even considered being a mother, let alone with a man who was a complete stranger in so many ways. The shame, the confusion, and the overwhelming fear gripped her. But the real shock came when she realized just how little she knew about the man who had gotten her pregnant. Ethan Collins wasn't just some charming billionaire. He was a man with secrets that could change everything for her. Her phone rang late one night, and her heart skipped a beat when she saw Ethan's name on the screen. "Hello," she answered, her voice trembling. "Samantha, I need to see you. It's urgent." Ethan's voice was sharp, almost frantic. "What's going on?" she asked, her throat tight. "I'll explain everything. Just meet me tomorrow, please," he pleaded before hanging up abruptly. The next day, she found herself once again standing in front of Ethan's penthouse. But this time, everything felt different. She wasn't just the girl he'd kissed on a whim. She was the woman carrying his child. As she stepped inside, the weight of the situation settled on her shoulders. Ethan was pacing by the window, his usual calm demeanor replaced with tension. "Sit down, Sam," he said, gesturing toward the sofa. "I didn't want you to find out this way, but it's time you knew the truth." Samantha sat, her heart pounding. "What truth?" Ethan turned to face her, his eyes darker than usual. "I didn't just invite you here because I liked you. You were part of something bigger, something that could ruin us both." Samantha's breath caught in her throat. The walls around her seemed to close in. She had no idea what she had walked into, but she knew one thing: her life, and the life of the baby growing inside her, was about to get a lot more complicated. Ethan's gaze softened for a moment, but there was something calculating about it, something she couldn't put her finger on. He took a deep breath, like he was trying to brace himself for what he was about to reveal. "I know this sounds crazy," he began, running his hand through his hair, "but there's more to me than you think. I didn't just get you pregnant by accident. There's a reason why I'm here." Samantha blinked, her mind racing. "What do you mean, Ethan? You don't make sense right now." He sighed and sat down beside her, his voice suddenly low and intense. "You're not just some random girl I met at a party. I've been keeping an eye on you, Sam. It wasn't just about that night, though I can't deny the attraction. You're different from the others. But there's more to it than just us being, well, us." A knot formed in Samantha's stomach. Her pulse quickened. "What do you mean you've been keeping an eye on me?" She felt her breath catch in her throat. "Are you telling me this was some kind of plan?" Ethan's face softened slightly, almost in apology, but there was still an edge of coldness in his eyes. "It wasn't like that. At least not at first. I didn't know you were going to be different. But I'm not the only one with a stake in this." Her confusion deepened. "A stake in what you've been watching me? For what purpose?" Ethan stood up, pacing again, clearly agitated. "It's complicated. You don't know who I really am, Sam. I never wanted you to get involved in any of this, but now that you're pregnant—" He paused, as if weighing his next words carefully. "There are people who will stop at nothing to control everything I've built, and now you're part of it." Her head was spinning. "I don't understand any of this. I thought we just had a moment, and now you're saying all this, and you expect me to just believe it." He turned to face her again, his expression hardening. "This isn't about belief, this is about survival. You're pregnant with my child, Sam. That changes everything." The gravity of his words hit her like a ton of bricks. She was carrying his child, but what did that mean? And why was he acting like this was some kind of prearranged fate? He was a billionaire, one of the wealthiest men in the world, and yet here he was, acting like he was trapped in some twisted game. "So, what do you want me to do?" Samantha asked, her voice shaking. "I'm just supposed to go along with whatever this is. Whatever your plan is, just because I'm carrying your child." Ethan hesitated, his eyes narrowing slightly. "Not just because of that, but because they won't stop until they get what they want. Sam, the people after me, they're dangerous. And you, and the baby, are now targets. I'm trying to protect you both, but you have to trust me. I don't have many options left." A cold shiver ran down her spine. She couldn't deny the fear in his voice. Ethan was usually so composed, so in control, but now he seemed like a man on the edge of losing everything. Samantha didn't know what to think. One part of her wanted to run, to get away from this mess before it consumed her, but another part, the part that was still reeling from the shock of everything, couldn't help but feel drawn to him. She didn't understand why, but there was something about him, something in his eyes, that made her want to believe his words. "And if I don't trust you?" she asked quietly, her eyes meeting his. "What happens then?" Ethan's expression darkened, and for the first time, she saw a flicker of something truly dangerous in his gaze. "Then you'll be alone, and they'll come for you and the baby. I can't let that happen." Samantha swallowed hard. This was insane. How had her life spiraled so quickly into something so dark? Just a few weeks ago, she was a regular college student, living a simple, predictable life. Now, she was pregnant with a billionaire's child, caught up in some twisted web of lies and danger that she didn't understand. "I didn't ask for any of this, Ethan," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I didn't ask to be part of your mess." He stepped closer, his tone softer now, though still filled with urgency. "I know, and I'm sorry. But now that we're here, you're going to have to decide. We either work together, or we both lose." Samantha's mind raced. She was scared. She didn't know what was happening, but she felt the weight of everything crashing down on her and crashing down on her. Was she really ready to be a mother? Was she ready to trust this man? A man who had just confessed that her pregnancy was part of some bigger, more dangerous plan. "I need time to think," she whispered, more to herself than to him. Ethan's face softened, but the tension was still there, thick in the air. "Take all the time you need. But just know, Sam, there's no turning back once you decide." As she walked out of his penthouse, her mind was a whirlwind. Everything had changed in the span of a few days, and now she was pregnant with a child who would connect her forever to a world she didn't understand, one she wasn't sure she wanted to be part of. The days that followed were a blur. Samantha tried to focus on her classes, but the pregnancy and everything Ethan had revealed kept swirling in her mind, drowning out the rest of the world. How could she concentrate on algebra or philosophy when her life had taken such a drastic, unimaginable turn? Her phone buzzed incessantly with messages from her best friend, Olivia, who had been the only person to notice something was off. She'd been the one who dragged Samantha to a cafe for a heart-to-heart the morning after the dinner with Ethan. And now she was growing more concerned with every passing day. "Sam, you're not answering my calls. What the hell is going on with you?" Olivia's message read. Samantha stared at it for a moment before replying, her fingers hesitating over the keys. "I'll explain later. I'm just dealing with some stuff right now," she typed. She couldn't bring herself to tell Olivia the truth. The last thing she needed was her best friend giving her a lecture about getting involved with a billionaire. Olivia didn't even know about the pregnancy yet, let alone the dangerous game Ethan had pulled her into. That night, Samantha went to bed early, exhausted from the weight of her thoughts. She tried to sleep, but every time she closed her eyes, she saw Ethan's face, his words echoing in her mind. "You're part of something bigger now." The words haunted her, and she knew he was right. There was no turning back now. The next morning, just as she was about to leave for class, her phone rang. Ethan's name flashed across the screen. With a mix of dread and curiosity, she answered. "What now? I need to meet you." "It's important," Ethan said, his voice tense. "We don't have much time. Can you come to my office?" She hesitated. "Why? What's going on now?" "There's no time to explain on the phone. Just trust me, Sam, please." Samantha clenched her jaw. She hadn't expected to see him again so soon, and she didn't know whether she was ready for whatever he had planned, but there was something about the urgency in his voice that made her agree. "I'll be there in an hour," she said before hanging up. When she arrived at Ethan's office building, she was struck by the stark contrast between her life and the world he inhabited. The building was sleek and modern, all glass and steel, and the lobby was filled with expensive-looking art. Everything screamed money, power, and influence. She felt out of place, like a child standing in the midst of a grand theater, unsure of how she even got a ticket. A tall, well-dressed assistant led her into Ethan's private office. She had never seen a place like this, floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a panoramic view of the city, walls lined with bookshelves filled with leather-bound books, and sleek furniture that looked like it belonged in a magazine. Ethan was sitting behind his desk, his usual confident demeanor in place, but there was something different in his eyes, a flicker of desperation. He gestured for her to sit, and she did, but she couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was coming next would change everything. "Sam," he began, his voice steady but urgent. "I've been trying to handle this on my own, but the situation's gotten worse. They're closing in on me, and now they're after you, too." Samantha swallowed, her stomach tightening. "Who are you talking about? Who's after us?" Ethan leaned forward, his gaze intense. "I didn't want you to be dragged into this, but now that you're pregnant with my child, it's too late. My enemies aren't just after me, they're after everything I've worked for, and they'll use you to get to me." Samantha's heart raced. "What do you mean? What enemies?" "There are people who want to take control of my company. They've been trying to undermine me for years, using any means necessary. And now that you're carrying my child, you've become a part of their plan. They'll use you as leverage to get what they want," Ethan explained, his voice growing more intense. Her mind was reeling. She couldn't comprehend what he was saying. This was insane. She was just a regular girl, and now she was being dragged into some high-stakes battle for power. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. "So, what do you want from me? You want me to just sit here and be your pawn in this game?" she asked, her voice trembling with anger and disbelief. Ethan looked at her, his expression softening for the briefest moment. "I don't want you to be a pawn, Sam. I want you to be safe, but you need to understand something. This is bigger than you and me. These people will stop at nothing to get what they want. And right now, you're the only thing standing between me and everything they're trying to take." Samantha could feel the weight of his words sinking in. She was pregnant with his child, and now she was caught in the middle of a battle she didn't understand. A battle between billionaires and power-hungry enemies who had no care for her life. "I don't know if I can handle this, Ethan," she whispered. "I never signed up for this. I never asked for any of this." "I know," he said, his voice filled with regret. "But you're in this now, whether you like it or not, and I'll do everything in my power to protect you. But you have to trust me." "You're not alone in this." The words should have comforted her, but instead, they felt hollow. Ethan had been offering protection, but the cost of that protection was a life she wasn't ready for, a life tangled in the web of a world that she wasn't prepared to navigate. As she left his office, her mind was a storm of confusion and fear. Ethan had said she wasn't alone, but the truth was, she felt more alone than ever. How had everything turned so upside down in such a short amount of time? The following days felt like a blur. Samantha found herself torn between trying to maintain some semblance of normalcy and grappling with the overwhelming reality that her life had been hijacked by a billionaire's dangerous enemies. The more Ethan spoke about his enemies, the more she realized just how far-reaching their power and influence were. People were watching her, following her every move, and that was a terrifying thought. She had never been part of a world like this, and now she couldn't escape it. She spent most of her time holed up in her small apartment, afraid to leave, not knowing who might be lurking nearby. Ethan had arranged for a bodyguard to watch over her, but the presence of a stranger in her life felt more suffocating than protective. She had never been the type to depend on anyone, let alone a bodyguard who followed her every move. But it wasn't just the fear of being watched that haunted her, it was the uncertainty, the constant question that gnawed at her. What did Ethan really want from her? He claimed he was trying to protect her, but was there something more? Was she just a pawn in his high-stakes game of power? Or was there a part of him that actually cared about her? One evening, Ethan called her again. This time, his voice was more urgent than usual. "Samantha, I need you to come to my office. There's been a development, and we need to talk." Her heart skipped a beat. She didn't want to face him. She didn't want to be drawn deeper into whatever dark web he was trying to pull her into. But something in his voice told her that she had no choice. "I'll be there in 20 minutes, she replied, trying to keep her voice steady. When she arrived at his office, the tension in the air was palpable. Ethan was pacing back and forth, his eyes darting between the windows and his phone, as if waiting for something or someone. He looked even more stressed than usual, and the lines of exhaustion were visible under his eyes. "Sam," he said as soon as she walked in, his voice strained. "We don't have much time. The situation has escalated. They're getting closer, and they know about you now. We need to move fast." Samantha froze. "What do you mean they know about me?" He stopped pacing and turned to face her, his eyes filled with urgency. "They know you're carrying my child. They're targeting you. The moment they find you, they'll use you to get to me. You're the only leverage. They have left Sam, and right now, there's no way to protect you unless we get ahead of them." A chill ran down her spine. She had never felt more trapped in her life. Everything she had ever known, everything that had once made sense, was now shattered. "Where do we go from here, Ethan?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. He hesitated for a moment, clearly struggling with the weight of what he was about to ask. "I need you to trust me. I have a Plaza safe house. It's isolated, secure. You'll be protected there. I'll stay in contact, but for now, you need to disappear." Samantha's chest tightened. "Disappear? What? Like run away from everything? My life? My friends?" Ethan's expression softened, but the urgency in his voice remained. "It's the only way, Sam. They're ruthless, and they won't stop until they get what they want. If you stay here, they'll find you. And if they do, I won't be able to keep you safe. I'll do everything I can to get them off your back. But right now, the only thing that matters is your safety and the baby's." The baby, the weight of that word hit her harder than anything he had said so far. She was responsible for a life now, and that made everything she had to face even more overwhelming. "I don't know if I can do this," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I didn't ask for any of this." Ethan stepped forward, his hand gently resting on her shoulder. His touch was unexpected, but it brought a brief sense of comfort amidst the storm of emotions swirling in her chest. "I know you didn't, Sam, and I'm sorry, but we don't have a choice now. You're already in this, whether you like it or not, but I'll be here. I promise you won't face this alone." She nodded slowly, though doubt still clung to her like a second skin. She didn't know if she could trust Ethan. She didn't know if she should trust anyone in this dangerous world she had been pulled into. But there was no way out. Not now. Samantha followed Ethan's instructions and packed a small bag, taking only the essentials. She couldn't believe this was happening. Her life had been upended, and she was being forced into hiding, just like some character in a thriller. But this was her life, and it was real. When they arrived at the safe house, Samantha felt the weight of her decision settle heavily on her shoulders. It was a large, secluded estate, far removed from the city, nestled deep in the woods. The house was equipped with every security measure imaginable, and the staff there seemed to know exactly what to do, moving swiftly and without question. Ethan handed her over to the care of his security team, who assured her that she would be safe. She tried to force herself to relax, but her mind refused to settle. Every shadow seemed to be hiding something. Every noise made her heart race. As night fell, she sat in a small, comfortable sitting room, staring out the window at the dark woods. It was eerily quiet, and for the first time in days, she allowed herself to cry. It wasn't just the overwhelming fear of the danger that surrounded her. It was the deep sadness of losing her life, the life she knew forever. And through it all, Ethan's words echoed in her mind. "I'll be here. You won't face this alone." But the more she thought about it, the more unsure she became. Could she really trust him? Could she trust anyone in a world that seemed so full of lies and hidden motives? The days at the safe house dragged on in a monotonous, suffocating haze. Samantha spent her time pacing through the empty rooms, trying to distract herself from the constant tension hanging in the air. She couldn't shake the feeling of being trapped in a gilded cage. Ethan had promised her safety, but with every passing hour, her anxiety grew. The silence in the house was oppressive. She had no contact with the outside world, no updates on what was happening with Ethan. It was as if everything she knew had been wiped away, and she was left to wait in this isolated fortress, alone with her thoughts. The only person she saw regularly was the bodyguard who had been assigned to her. His name was Mark, and though he was polite and efficient, he didn't say much beyond what was necessary. He was a constant reminder of how far her life had veered off course. She had once been a college student, full of hope and dreams, and now she was locked away in a mansion, hiding from people she couldn't even comprehend. Samantha couldn't stop thinking about Ethan. She wondered if he was truly trying to protect her, or if there was something else, something deeper at play. Every time she asked about him, Mark was tight-lipped, offering no answers, only reassurances that everything would be okay. But was it really? One evening, after dinner, Mark handed her an envelope. "This is for you," he said simply. Samantha took the envelope with a raised eyebrow. There was no return address, just a sleek, black seal. Inside, there was a single note, written in Ethan's unmistakable handwriting. "I know this is hard, Sam, but I need you to stay calm. We've identified the people behind this. They're not just after me, they're after everything I've built. I'll be in touch soon. Don't trust anyone outside of this house, not even me. The fewer people you trust, the safer you'll be. You're my priority, and I will protect you. Just wait. I'll be there soon." Her hands trembled as she read the note. Ethan's words were cryptic, and the underlying tension in them made her uneasy. The last sentence stood out. "Don't trust anyone outside of this house, not even me." What did that mean? Could she trust Ethan at all? Had he been keeping things from her all along? His words seemed to contradict everything he had said to her before, promising protection, offering comfort, but now implying that she shouldn't even trust him. Samantha stared at the note for a long time, the weight of its meaning sinking in. She didn't know who to believe anymore. The man who had promised to protect her and then disappeared, or the strangers out there, waiting to take everything from him, and, by extension, her. The following days passed in a blur of uncertainty. Ethan's message haunted her, and she began to notice more and more things that seemed off. She overheard Mark speaking to someone on the phone one night, his voice low and urgent. When he saw her, he quickly hung up and gave her a stiff smile. But she couldn't ignore the feeling that something was happening behind the scenes. Late one night, after Mark had gone to bed, Samantha decided to investigate. Her instincts screamed at her to find out what was going on. She slipped out of her room, the hallway dimly lit by the soft glow of a nightlight. The silence was deafening as she moved quietly toward the office at the end of the hall, the only room that was locked. She had seen Mark go in there several times, but he always made sure the door was secured before leaving. Samantha knew she shouldn't be doing this. She knew she could get caught, and that would only make things worse. But the need to understand, to uncover the truth, was too strong. She had to know what was really happening. She found the office door locked, just as she expected, but a small key was hanging on the wall near the door frames, suspiciously easy to find. Her heart raced as she grabbed it and slipped it into the lock. The door clicked open. Inside, The room was sparsely furnished, just a desk, a few chairs, and a large cabinet against the wall. The walls were lined with photos and documents, but it wasn't the decor that caught her attention. It was the large monitor sitting on the desk, still lit up. Someone had clearly been using it recently. Samantha hesitated for a moment, but her curiosity won out. She sat down at the desk and clicked the mouse, bringing the screen to life. What she saw made her stomach drop. There were several files open on the screen, all labeled with names she didn't recognize, but one name stood out: Samantha Harris. The file was filled with details about her life, everything from her family, history to her school records, and even personal information she had never shared with anyone. There were notes about her health, her habits, and, most shockingly, details about her pregnancy. It was as if someone had been tracking her every move for months. She scrolled through the files, her heart pounding in her chest. The more she read, the more she realized that her life wasn't just being controlled by Ethan, it was being manipulated by people she didn't even know. They had been watching her, planning for her involvement in whatever game Ethan was playing. Then, she found something even more chilling: an email chain with the subject line, "Samantha's role in the plan." She clicked on it, her hands shaking as she read the contents. The emails discussed her pregnancy, detailing how the child she was carrying would be used to leverage Ethan's position in the company. It was clear now her pregnancy was never just a consequence of one night. She was part of a much larger, more dangerous scheme, one that Ethan had not fully disclosed to her. Before she could read more, the sound of footsteps echoed down the hallway. Samantha quickly closed the laptop and hid it, her pulse racing as the door to the office creaked open. It was Mark, standing there, staring at her with an unreadable expression. "I knew you'd find it eventually," he said, his voice cold. Samantha's heart dropped into her stomach. "What is this?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Mark stepped into the room, his eyes darkening. "The truth. You should have stayed out of it, but now you know. And now, there's no turning back." Samantha's mind raced as she stood frozen in the office, trying to process everything. Mark's words echoed in her ears, but they didn't make sense. She had just uncovered something she wasn't supposed to know, and now she was facing Mark, who had been her bodyguard and her only semblance of protection in this nightmare. But now, it was clear he wasn't just protecting her. "You knew about this?" she asked, her voice shaking. "You knew about me being part of this plan, the baby, everything?" Mark didn't answer right away. He just stood there, his expression guarded. Then, with a heavy sigh, he took a step closer, his tone quieter, more serious. "You're not as innocent in this as you think, Sam," he said slowly. "You've been part of this from the moment. Ethan chose you. He knew what he was doing when he got you pregnant. It wasn't just a mistake." Samantha felt her chest tighten. "What are you talking about?" "Ethan said he wanted to protect me, that he cared about me." Mark's gaze hardened. "He does care about you, but not in the way you think. This whole thing, the pregnancy, the enemies, the secret safe houses, it's all part of a bigger game. A game he never told you about. You're not just a victim in this, Sam. You're a pawn." Her heart dropped. "What do you mean, a pawn?" "You're saying I'm being used." Mark nodded slowly. "You're carrying the child that will give Ethan ultimate leverage. People want him, Sam, and they'll do anything to get to him. That's why you're here, in this house, hidden away from the world. You're the key to everything, and that's why they'll stop at nothing to get to you." Samantha felt dizzy, her head spinning. The truth was too much to bear. She had been used. She had thought she was just caught up in a mess, but now it was clear that her entire life had been manipulated, twisted into something she hadn't signed up for. "But I don't want this," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I never asked for any of this." Mark's eyes softened for a moment, but there was still an edge of regret in his voice. I know, but you're too deep into this now. Sam, you can't just walk away. They won't let you. You can't leave, and you can't trust anyone. The more you know, the more dangerous it gets." Her breathing quickened as panic surged through her. She had never felt so alone, so betrayed. "So, what am I supposed to do now? I'm stuck in this prison, waiting for something I don't even understand." Mark hesitated. "You're not alone. I'll keep you safe as best I can. But you need to understand, Sam, Ethan is playing a dangerous game. And the people after him, they won't stop until they have what they want." Samantha felt a wave of anger rise in her chest. "You keep saying that, But what does Ethan want? What's the endgame in all of this? Mark finally looked her directly in the eyes. Ethan wants to win. He wants to keep his empire intact, and is willing to do whatever it takes to protect his legacy. You're part of that legacy now, and whether you like it or not, your future and the future of your child are tied to him. Her mind was racing. She had no answers, just more questions. Was Ethan really trying to protect her, or was he simply playing her like everyone else? And if she truly was just a pawn, did that mean she had no say in her own life anymore? The room felt suffocating. Samantha's gaze drifted to the window, where the darkened landscape seemed endless. How had everything gotten so twisted? She had once dreamed of a normal life, but now that dream seemed so far out of reach, buried under the weight of secrets and lies. I can't do this, she whispered, her voice breaking. I can't be a part of this game. I want out. Mark, I want out of all of this. Mark's expression softened with a flicker of sympathy. I get it, Sam, but there's no easy way out. You need to understand you're not just dealing with Ethan's enemies now. You're dealing with people who have already made their move, and once they know you've turned against them, they won't hesitate. Samantha clenched her fists, fighting back the tears. Then what am I supposed to do? Sit here forever and wait for something to happen? Mark's eyes turned hard, and for the first time, she saw a glimpse of the true reality she was living in. You have to make a choice, Sam. Stay here, hidden away, and trust that we'll keep you safe, or leave and take your chances. But know this, if you leave, you're on your own, and they'll find you. The weight of his words settled over her like a heavy fog. She had never felt more lost. She was stuck between two impossible choices: stay in the house, living under constant fear, or run, knowing full well that running might just get her killed. Her mind raced as she replayed every conversation with Ethan, every promise he had made to her. Was there any truth to them, or had she been nothing more than a means to an end? Why did you let me stay here? She finally asked, her voice barely a whisper. Why didn't you just tell me the truth from the beginning? Mark's eyes darkened, and for a moment he seemed to wrestle with himself. Because if you knew everything from the start, you would have run. And the truth is, Sam, I don't know if you'd survive out there. Ethan, he's the only one who can protect you now. You're in too deep. Samantha stood in the office, her mind spinning. The walls seemed to close in around her, the weight of the reality she was trapped in pressing down harder than ever. She was caught in a storm, one she hadn't asked for, one that she couldn't escape. And the more she learned, the more she realized she didn't know who she could trust. Samantha sat alone in the dark, the weight of everything she had just learned settling heavily on her chest. She felt like she was drowning in a sea of betrayal, confusion, and fear. The life she once knew, the life she had dreamed of, seemed so far away now. Her future was no longer hers. To decide it was tied to people who saw her as nothing more than a piece on a chessboard. She couldn't sleep. Her mind was too cluttered with questions. Was Ethan really trying to protect her, or had he been playing her from the start, using her to gain power and leverage? Was Mark right? Was she truly just a pawn in a game far bigger than her? The hours dragged on, each minute feeling like an eternity. She had no answers, just more questions, and with each passing hour, the world outside her safe house seemed to close in on her. The more she tried to escape, the more she realized there was no escape. She was in this world now, whether she liked it or not. In the morning, Mark came to check on her, his usual stoic expression in place. He was efficient and professional, but something about his presence made her uneasy. There was too much he wasn't saying, too many secrets lurking beneath the surface. Samantha, you need to be ready, he said, his voice steady but with an undertone of urgency. There's a meeting today. Ethan will be in touch. I can't tell you the details, but you need to be prepared. Prepared for what? She didn't even know what was happening anymore. Ethan had promised he would keep her safe, but now she wasn't sure she could trust his promises. Was he trying to protect her, or was he keeping her in the dark for his own gain? I don't know if I can keep doing this, she said, her voice shaking. I don't even know what's real anymore. Mark's eyes softened for a brief moment, a flicker of sympathy breaking through his usually guarded exterior. I get it, but you need to understand something. Ethan's world is dangerous. He's made enemies, and those enemies won't stop until they've taken everything. From him and from you. This isn't something you can walk away from. Her heart ached at the finality in his words. She had no control, no choice. She was stuck in this nightmare. And no matter how much she wanted to escape, the truth was too real. If she left, if she ran, there would be consequences. She could already feel the eyes of Ethan's enemies on her, watching, waiting. "Are you going to protect me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Mark hesitated, then nodded. "I'll do my best, but I can't promise anything. We're all in this together now, Sam, and if you want out, you'll have to take matters into your own hands." She looked at him, the confusion and anger still bubbling beneath the surface. Was Mark telling her the truth? Was he just another player in this dangerous game? Or was he the one person she could still trust? Before she could ask more questions, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Ethan. "Meet me in my office. There's something you need to know." Samantha felt a mix of dread and anticipation flood through her. She had been avoiding him, avoiding the truth, but now, it seemed there was no way out. She had to face whatever Ethan was going to tell her. She had to know what came next. "Are you coming?" Mark asked, his voice cutting through her thoughts. She nodded, her chest tight. "Yeah, I'm coming." The drive to Ethan's office felt like an eternity. She couldn't stop thinking about everything that had happened. Was she really prepared for the truth? Was she ready to face the reality of her situation? When they arrived, Mark escorted her to the elevator, his presence a constant reminder of how trapped she truly was. As they stepped out on the top floor, she noticed the heightened security, extra guards, more surveillance cameras, and a general air of tension that hadn't been there before. Ethan's enemies were closing in, and it was clear that the stakes had never been higher. As they walked into Ethan's office, Samantha felt the weight of all eyes on her. Ethan was sitting at his desk, his usual calm demeanor now replaced with a look of exhaustion and worry. He looked up when she entered, his eyes locking with hers. "Sam," he said, his voice a mix of relief and urgency. "You're here. I'm glad you came." She didn't say anything at first. Instead, she just stared at him, the questions swirling in her mind. Was this man the one who had promised to protect her? Or was he just another player in this twisted game? "I've been trying to keep you safe," Ethan continued, his tone serious. "But things are escalating. The people after me are getting more aggressive. And I need you to understand something. The plan we've been working on, it's about more than just us. More than just us." Samantha swallowed hard. She had no idea what he meant by the plan. She had no idea what game she was a part of anymore. "Tell me what's really going on, Ethan," she demanded, her voice tight. "What's the truth?" Ethan stood up, walking toward her. His eyes softened, but there was a sense of finality in his voice. "The truth is, Sam, you're not just here to hide. You're here because you're part of a much bigger picture. I brought you into this because I need you." Samantha took a step back, the realization hitting her like a punch to the gut. "What do you mean, you need me?" Ethan looked at her, his gaze unwavering. "You're carrying the future of everything I've worked for. This child you are, the key to everything. The people after me aren't just after my company. They want control, and they'll stop at nothing to get it." Her stomach churned. The weight of his words felt suffocating. She was carrying a child, yes, but she wasn't just carrying it for herself. She was carrying it for a man she didn't fully trust. A man whose world was far more dangerous than she could have ever imagined. "You're part of the plan, Sam," Ethan said quietly. "Whether you like it or not." The room felt like it was closing in on Samantha, the air thick with tension. Ethan's words echoed in her mind, reverberating with a gravity she couldn't escape. She was part of the plan. She had always been part of the plan. The baby she carried wasn't just a consequence of a momentary lapse, it was the center of a game she hadn't been prepared to play. "Part of the plan?" she asked, her voice almost a whisper, the disbelief thick in her tone. "You mean to tell me all of this, everything was orchestrated? You didn't just get me pregnant by accident?" Ethan took a deep breath, his eyes never leaving hers. "No, it wasn't an accident. I'm sorry, Sam. I never wanted you to find out like this. But the truth is, I needed you in this. You're not just the mother of my child. You're the key to the future of everything I've built." Samantha's heart pounded in her chest. "I never asked for this. I don't want any part of your world. I don't want to be the key to your future. I just wanted a normal life." Her voice cracked as the words tumbled out, all the pain and confusion she had been holding back now pouring out in a rush. Ethan's expression softened, a flicker of genuine regret passing through his eyes. "I know, Sam, I know, and I'm sorry. You deserve so much more than this. But the truth is, There's no turning back now. You're in this. And he stopped, looking down, as if searching for the right words. I'm trying to protect you, but I can't do it alone. Samantha clenched her fists, her nails digging into her palms. The room was suffocating her, and her mind was a whirlwind of emotions. She had never wanted this life, this twisted reality. She had never asked for Ethan's power struggles or his dangerous enemies, but here she was, trapped in a world she didn't understand, with no way out. I don't know if I can trust you, she said, the words leaving her mouth with a finality she hadn't intended. I don't know if I even want to trust you anymore. Ethan took a step toward her, his face pleading. I understand, I do. But you have to know, if I hadn't done what I did, if I hadn't brought you into this, you'd be just another target. They would have found you, and they would have used you against me, and I couldn't let that happen. I just couldn't. Her breath hitched, her mind still reeling. The idea that she had been a pawn all along, that her life had never really been her own, made her sick. She had been a part of something she hadn't even been allowed to understand. You said you'd protect me, Samantha whispered, her voice breaking. But I don't feel protected, Ethan. I feel like I've been thrown into this world, and now I am just waiting to be consumed by it. Ethan's face darkened, the weight of her words settling in. I'm trying, Sam, trying to protect you, but I need your help. I need you to stand with me in this. She shook her head, tears welling up in her eyes. I don't know if I can, Ethan. I don't know if I can stand with you, not when I don't even know who you really are. Ethan stepped back, his shoulders slumping with the realization that there was nothing he could say to make her understand. His empire, his power, his carefully constructed world, it was all crumbling before him. And the one person who mattered most to him, the one person who could help him keep it all together, was slipping through his fingers. I don't want this to end like this, he said quietly, his voice filled with regret. But I can't ask you to trust me if you're not ready. Just know this, Sam, whatever happens, I'll always protect you. Even if you walk away, I'll keep you safe. Samantha looked at him, the anger and confusion still raw. But somewhere, deep inside, there was a part of her that believed him. Despite everything, despite the manipulation, there was something about Ethan that made her want to believe in him. But belief wasn't enough. Not anymore. I don't know if I can be a part of this world, she said, shaking her head. I don't know if I can be a part of your game. I just want out. Ethan looked at her, the desperation in his eyes unmistakable. You can't just walk away, Sam. You can't go back to the life you had. Not after all of this. They'll find you. Samantha's gaze was steady as she looked at him one last time. Then maybe it's better if they do. The silence that followed felt like the calm before a storm. Ethan's eyes darkened, the reality of her words sinking in. She was choosing to walk away, to reject the life he had built, even if it meant putting herself in even greater danger. She had no illusions about the consequences. But one thing was clear: she couldn't live in this world of lies, manipulation, and danger any longer. With one final glance at Ethan, Samantha turned and walked toward the door, her heart heavy with the weight of the decision she had just made. She didn't know what awaited her outside those walls, but she knew one thing: she had to find her own way, even if it meant facing the unknown. As the door closed behind her, she didn't look back.